All right, Adam Snow, Ricardo Torrens, Michael Apodaca.
That boy Rod.
That boy Rod. Justin Dunker. FinFan 3493.
Bryn Kreisman.
We are getting to questions from you.
Long time coming because we haven't done a show since January.
Yeah, since the season recap.
Yeah, I like the tie, by the way.
Thank you. You went with the mock, I see.
You know, it's a good explanation for this. I forgot to tell my girlfriend that she had to pick out an outfit, and I didn't feel like ironing anything, so...
So you said, I've got this gray turtleneck. What's going to go great with it?
I am actually a
gray jacket
so
over it.
Did I make a See, I'm colorblind, so these things are not like...
You look fine. You look great. Thank you very much. Water in the new building's not bad.
Yeah. It's nice and cold.
Thumbs up to the water in the new building.
All right, we're ready to rock? Cindy, we're ready to go. Sound good? Do you see the camera? Do you see the laptop on the side?
Yeah. That. Now it's closed. Let me see. No, we can. I can change it. I'll zoom in a little bit.
Okay. No.
All right, it's out.
Okay. All right.
Good.
Perfect. Let's rock and roll.
All right. We're live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
The Dolphins made it back to the postseason last year, and now this offseason is all about getting it back to that spot. Welcome to the X's and Omar offseason special alongside Sentinel Dolphins columnist Omar Kelly. I'm CBS 12 sports director Matt Lincoln. A very active postseason, lots of moves to
New
break down.
studio!
Hey, you know, things are looking different down the street with the new faces that the Dolphins have, and now it's looking a little different in here too.
The come up. Now, it'll be interesting to see if this roster's coming up. I wrote a column in today's Sun Sentinel, and it's really after thoroughly analyzing everything that the Dolphins have done. Their 90-player roster is set. Once those undrafted rookies are signed, they're set. The draft picks are made. Free agency spending is just about done. They'll probably add one or two veterans a little bit later, probably the week before the draft. But this is your team. The question is it better than the playoff team that you had last year that was 10-6?
Well, the mantra this year is 0 in. Explain what that means to this year's team.
They're referring to starting fresh. Everything that you did last year, it's gone. You've got 0 in the books. And this is about beginning fresh and seeing if the gains that you're going to make now are going to make this team better. And it sort of piggybacks on my column. Ryan Tannehill should be better in his second year in Adam Gase's offense. Jay Ajayi should be, and the offensive line, hopefully, the Unicorns. Hopefully the offensive line will be better and more cohesive. They know Jay Ajayi. They know what his strengths are. They know how to play him up. The receiving core. All three guys are back. You got Julius Thomas, who's been with Adam Gase since his Denver days. All of those things should be better, and they should be taking a step forward in the second year under Adam Gase. Now, this is also going to be another step forward with the same defense. Matt Burke has taken over for what was the defensive coordinator? Not Todd Bowles.
The new head coach of the Denver Broncos.
New head coach of the Denver Broncos, Vance Joseph, and hopefully he's going to turn up the volume with a little bit different sort of package. They haven't really tipped it off what it is, but I think it's Kevin Coyle's old speed package. Just a little bit of multiple confusion elements.
Well, I think we're all sort of expecting that, at least hoping that a lot of those players that have been around will continue to get better. But really what this special is about and what people are excited about this time of the year is the new guys.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about some of the free agents that have gone in, the trades that the Dolphins have made, and whether or not that's made the team better. But it's the week after draft week, so it's time to break down some of these draft picks. And I'm sure you watched, as we all did. The Dolphins went with a pass rusher in the first round, going with Missouri's Charles Harris, then Ohio State's Raekwon McMillan, a linebacker in the second round, Clemson defensive back Cordray Tankersley after that, and then added defensive tackles Devon Godshaw, Vincent Taylor in the later rounds. How will these newcomers help Matt Burke's unit?
It'll be interesting to see what they do with Raekwon McMillan. I think he's sort of the key element there because I think if any of them has a chance to start, it's going to be McMillan. They need 3 linebackers, really only 2 play every down. You have to think Lawrence Timmons and Kiko Alonso, the leading tackler last year, the guy who, the veteran that they added from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those are your those are your 3 down linebackers. But Raekwon has a chance to sort of unseat Koamisi and beat out Neville Hewitt for that 3rd spot. How they all fit in, I don't know, because every one of them is an inside linebacker. Well, we know Kiko's going to be moving to the weak side, but then Raekwon, where does he go? Lawrence Timmons, if you remember, he was a pass rusher at Florida State. His body type is sort of a strong side linebacker type. He's good at rushing the quarterback. I believe he's got nearly 30 sacks in his career. So we see where that can fit in. It'll be interesting to see how they all implement it. Now, Charles Harris. He's really going to be the pass rushing specialist paired with Cam Wake. You got 2 guys with athleticism, speed, great bendability. Funny and interestingly enough, when I watched Charles Harris's film at Missouri, it reminded me of Cameron Wake. When I'm talking about the low bend, you know how Cam does it. He gets, he twists his body, gets low to the ground, turns the corner at a sharp angle, gets to the quarterback. Well, now Charles Harris can do it from the opposite end. The question I had about him, though, was he was an outside linebacker, a pass rushing specialist at Missouri, and he really couldn't set the edge. Let's be real about it. And what we know is that the Dolphins struggle setting the edge. Sure. The Dolphins allowed 6,122 yards, franchise record last year. They were bad. They couldn't stop the run, 140 rushing yards per game. How are they going to stop the run? Are we going to bank on these 2 fifth and sixth round defensive tackles competing with Jordan Phillips to improve that unit?
I think at this point that is what the Dolphins are expecting. Let's take a look at some of your questions. Of course, the show is all about you still, and we receive these questions via Twitter. This one's from @SnowdogFins. Is Chris Greer's loyalty to the best players available jeopardizing the Dolphins?
I think it's improving the Dolphins. I can give you a ton of examples about best player available. Jarvis Landry. When the Dolphins drafted Jarvis Landry in 2014, they had 4 receivers. You want me to name them? Mike Wallace. They had Brian Hartline coming off 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving years. Brandon Gibson, Rashard Matthews, who's giving you 900 yards and 9 touchdowns with the Tennessee Titans. They didn't need Jarvis Landry. Right. But if you look at where this team is 3 years later, who's your number 1 player?
Obviously, Jarvis Landry.
So BPA, it's a good approach in terms of improving your team. What it does is it ensures that Chris Greer, in 5 years, when he's searching for a new job or looking for a raise, and you're checking his track record, he's got hit, guys in the league 6 years. He's got a solid track record of adding good talent to his team. The one concern I do have is it doesn't necessarily address your needs. The Dolphins waited till the 5th round to draft a guard, so he's going to have to be competing against Ted Larson, Isaac Asada. And then defensive tackle, which we all know was the number 1 need on this team. You waited till the 5th and 6th round to do it. Now, did you get good talent? Who knows? But you waited till the 5th and 6th round to do it. So need is an important element. I am personally a need guy. I'm not a BPA guy. I'm a BPA marries need. I would have certainly, in the 2nd round, if this is my second guess special, instead of drafting Raekwon McMillan to add and compete as your third inside linebacker, I would have drafted Dalvin Tomlinson, who was selected the very next pick. I'm sure that I will be comparing those 2 players for the rest of their careers.
All right, let's take our next question from Ricardo Torrens. Being a playoff team, why would the Dolphins not draft impact starters days 1 through 3? Why go for the depth instead? And I think the answer is BPA, right?
BPA is the way. BPA is Chris Greer's approach. He's very adamant about that. And I don't disagree with him from this standpoint. When we began this show last year, what was our number 1 complaint about the Dolphins?
Last year?
Yeah.
Stopping the run.
Well, it became stopping the run.
Well, they were not very good at stopping the run the year before that either.
That's true. But I think we complained about the lack of depth.
Okay, yeah, that's true too, yes.
Yeah, we did complain about the lack of depth, and you saw it. You saw it become an issue late in the year. Mm-hmm. You saw you were out there playing with Bakari Rambo
yeah.
and guys who realistic Spencer Paysinger,
Right.
they didn't belong on the field, but they were out there playing 40 snaps. Right now, you've ensured yourself that you've got 4 linebackers. 4. Counting Cole Misi, hell, we could go 5 because I think Neville Hewitt is a good player. I personally think he's a good player. Takes a little bit of a while to learn it, but once he's got it, he's good. So you got 5 good linebackers who could be NFL starters. Now with the Correa Tankersley pick, that was the one pick that didn't make much sense to me because you've got 4 guys in your secondary that have started at least 6 games for you. So now you add a 3rd round pick, you've got 5 cornerbacks. How many cornerbacks do you really need? You really need 6, but you got 5. Depth on the offensive line, I wish it was a little better, but it is what it is. You can make it through the season with what you have. Whereas last year, a lot of guys were thrown in there and they won with them, but whew, it was a struggle.
And I think that's the argument for Ricardo here is that, yes, the Dolphins were a playoff team.
Yes.
But how close are they to a Super Bowl team?
No, they are not.
They are not. They're not
They're
one player
not.
away.
They're not.
That
That
is
is a
guard away.
You're
if
right.
they were a guard away, then yes, you take the best guard and you put him in there and you hope you win the Super Bowl. But the Dolphins are not there yet.
That is an excellent point, and I've never looked at it that way.
All right. Next question's from Roderick, Dat Boy Rod, 22. Who do you see more as a strong side linebacker? Raekwon McMillan, Lawrence Timmons, or will McMillan be Timmons' backup? They can't have them all play inside linebacker.
You're correct. They all can't play inside linebacker. I think that Raekwon McMillan is going to begin training camp as the backup inside linebacker, and then in the sub package, that's a sub package, he's probably going to be worked in a little bit as the 3rd guy to backing up Kiko Alonso and Lawrence Timmons. But I think there's a realistic chance, depending on where Cole Misi's health is, that Raekwon McMillan could be that Sam. It depends on how stout he is, how physical he is. I haven't seen him in person yet, so I don't know. Can he set the edge? Can he take on and knock down a fullback? Those are things that, really the traits that you're looking for a Sam linebacker. It's Koamisi, basically. So a lot of people think it's not hard to beat out Koamisi, but there's a reason he's been a 7-year starter here.
And does it matter in the experience level whether or not that guy who's making the calls, that guy who's reading the defenses, whether or not he's playing the mic or he's playing a strong? Does it matter?
See, here's the thing: you can only give one guy the mic, which is why it's called Mike.
Right.
By the way, and I have to think that Mike is going to be the guy who has to be on the field for all 3 downs. So it might still be Kiko Alonso because if you remember when I broke down Lawrence Timmons' film, he's not that great against the pass. So there's a possibility he might be a rusher or he might be coming off the field. That was his area of weakness, which is why Pittsburgh said, we can pass. And why the Dolphins ended up with him for a 2-year, $12 million deal. So it might still be Kiko Alonso calling the plays, or maybe Raekwon McMillan calling the plays. But then that means Raekwon would have to be a 3-down player. So who sits the bench? Kiko Alonso, who you just gave a $28 million contract to, or Lawrence Timmons, who's a multi-year Pro Bowl player?
I mean, McMillan is a
good
multiple
problem to have.
captain, also at Ohio State. Very intelligent young man. Maybe one day down the line.
He was at Ohio State for a cup of coffee. Let's not give him that much praise.
All right. Well, we've discussed plenty of the defense, and now it's time to talk a little bit of the offense. It seemed anyway that the way everything shook out for the Dolphins front office is that other than Timmons, they did a lot of their offseason moves on offense and free agency, and then decided to use the draft picks on defense. So now, offensively, what the Dolphins look like is they're bringing Kenny Stills back. They've brought in Julius Thomas. They actually have tight ends now with Julius Thomas and Anthony Fasano.
They had tight ends before. They just weren't very good.
They just weren't very good.
No.
And they couldn't stay on the field, really. And then they drafted a 7th-round receiver in Isaiah Ford out of Virginia Tech. So have the skill positions improved for the Dolphins?
You know what? It's really stretch for me to sit here and say that the skill positions, because of the players added, have improved. Julius Thomas hasn't been good for the last 2 years. Yeah, he scored 24 touchdowns with Adam Gase in Denver. Maybe Adam Gase is just the genius that can get the best out of Julius Thomas. That's why they're reunited now. But athletically, he might not be the same player that he was when he was 24, 25. Kenny Stills definitely should take another step forward in his 2nd year in this offense. He was kind of the veteran leader of that receiving corps, And I expect him to take another step forward. I expect everybody in the offense to take another step forward if Ryan Tannehill is healthy. And Anthony Fasano, those who've been around here for a while, we know who Anthony Fasano is.
Sure.
He's not dynamic, killing you in the seam, but he's going to be a red zone weapon, and he's going to be one hell of a blocker, better blocker than Deion Sims, so that assists your run game. So I do see improvements from the offense in terms of continuity, familiarity. That's going to help them. Now, where I see the area of problems and concern is the offensive line. You know I'm a Brandon Albert fan. And last year I gave him the midseason MVP award. Brandon Albert played with one hand and played pretty damn well except for that Pittsburgh game. He is going to be tough to replace. Yes, you believe that Laramie Tunsil will be a perennial Pro Bowler, a great elite player, and I have those beliefs as well. But it'll probably take him a season to get comfortable and used to playing left tackle. Now, is he going to be, hit the ground for running? Maybe. But that means you're at a wash at left tackle. Now, we're taking a step back at left guard. Let's be real about it. You go from Laramie Tunsil, who you think is dynamic, to Ted Larson. No disrespect to Ted Larson and his family, but there's a reason why he's a career backup, career journeyman. He's got 50-plus starts, but there's a reason why people always want to replace him and improve on him. And then if he loses out to Asiata, I think I said his name right.
Yeah, you did that.
Yeah, I did that. If he loses out to Asiata, who I really do like, he was the 4th best guard in this draft. He fell, according to my sources, because he's got some chronic knee issue with the Jay Ajayi mysterious knee issue that makes NFL teams say, oh, we can't pick him. I think he's going to be he's very physical in the run. So I like that aspect about him. So, either way you go, is he Laramie Tunsil? Probably not. So you're taking a step back, and that concerns me because you have to protect for Ryan Tannehill, and you have to open up running lanes for Jay Ajayi.
And I think the 3 questions go, and we can get more into this as we get closer to the season, but to me, the 3 big questions that go into this offense and whether or not they become a good to very good offense to a very good to an elite offense is, can they figure out those offensive line problems? Can Jay Ajayi stay on the field? And does Devontae Parker become the guy that he could become?
That's true.
If the answers to all of those 3 questions are yes or good and all that sort of things, then this is going to be maybe an elite offense.
No question about it. Another excellent point made by you.
Hey,
you're bringing it today. I
see.
did not factor in Devontae Parker. If he could stay healthy, he's got more talent than all the other receivers. He's just got to put it together. So you could be looking at a pretty dynamic offense. I've always said and do believe that year 2, the jump that a quarterback makes in the second year of the offense is going to be significant. Look at Matt Ryan in his second year in that offense, where he went from just a guy or just a little bit above a guy to elite in one season. And maybe Ryan Tannehill could do the same.
Well, I'm just going to say, we've got I'm going to drop a little bit of a spoiler alert through the scripts, but I think it's very telling that we're talking about this team, previewing this team, going into their offseason moves and talking about the next season, and there is not one question about Ryan Tannehill. I don't think, we've got
excellent point by you.
We've got bigger questions than the quarterback for once.
Yes, that's a good point.
For once.
There was not one Ryan Tannehill question in X's and Omar.
All right, here's a question from Michael. Out of all of our draft picks, who do you think will have the biggest impact on this team? I think he means this year. This team this year.
This team this year. Oh, obviously, if Harris can give you 6 sacks this in his rookie season, that's tremendous because you're just learning. You still got a pacifier in your mouth. But I think it's going to be the offensive guard from Utah, Isaac Asiata. Isaac Asiata, just a player that when you watch this film, fell in love with him. Just thought, he's nasty. I believe Chris Greer called him a prick in the post-draft press conference. And it's true. He wants to smush your face in the dirt. If he's got you on the ground, he's jumping on top of you. And I love the fat trench players.
Sure.
And I loved his style. I thought he was a very good player. I thought he was a little bit heavy, but the Dolphins plan to change up some things that they do on the offensive line. So maybe he fits in.
Since we're talking about offensive linemen, Alex Zabo wants to know, What's the money looking like to re-sign Juwan James? Redskins signed Morgan Moses to an extension last weekend that pays him 5 years, $40 million base, and guaranteed him $20 million. Is that what James is going to have to get after this 5th year?
That's certainly the bar. Juwan James got his 5th-year option yesterday. This is important because not only does it guarantee that he's probably going to be back, 5th year is only guaranteed for injury. So if he gets injured next year, he's definitely going to be back for roughly $9 million. But it also sets a price point for Juwan James. Right now, if you want to lock him up to a 4 or 5 year deal, you're talking $9 million a year. We have now set a price point for Juwan James. So the Morgan Moses price point is $40 million, $20 million guaranteed. Now you know what it's going to take to lock up your right tackle.
Well, and
Players aren't cheap.
And now you also see, though, that they don't have any young guys in there that you could possibly say, let him walk. We've got someone who could take his spot, and for cheaper, doesn't seem to be anyone waiting in the wings to take Juwan James's spot. All right, next question is from Ben. I noticed the Finns did not draft a safety. Will they look to add one using an undrafted free agent, or will they ride it out with what they have? I think that's the question, really what seems to be the hole right now. Do they have someone to play next to Rashad Jones?
Well, they signed Nate Allen, who, look at your face. You're like,
but I mean, did we do the same thing with this Issa Abdul-Qudus as the argument? Is we kind of went.
We did. Okay. Issa Abdul-Qudus was a player trending up. Nate Allen is a player trending down. He's got a 1 year, $3 million deal. That's clearly an indication he's a stopgap player. But here's the thing that always makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Michael Thomas has been here and been a starter for 3 years now. He's filled in for when things fall apart. He's very important on special teams, which is why he's a captain. So they don't always want to overload him at safety. But Michael Thomas can get the job done.
Yeah.
It's not sexy. It doesn't warm your heart, but it's pretty good. You need a specific player to play with Rashad Jones. He's got to be intelligent. He's got to have range. He's got to be able to diagnose what Rashad is doing because Rashad does a lot of freelancing. So I'm fine with Nate Allen and Michael Thomas until TJ McDonald comes off his 8-game suspension. Right. And then let me throw you another name. A.J. Hendy, a young rookie from Maryland last year who was on the practice squad all year. Coaches kept raving about him. Earned a spot on the 53-man roster. I think the young man has some talent. I would like to see what he has. And if things go awry, you always have options. Jerry's Bird is still out there. Darrelle Revis lives right down here in South Florida and has called the Dolphins a couple times about seeing if he can play for them. Wants to probably be a safety in the NFL. You got options. If you don't like what you see in September, you got options.
Rashad Jones with Darrelle Revis, that's kind of interesting.
It is interesting. It's quite intriguing. I've been sitting on that, so that's an exclusive right there.
All right. Brian Garcia asks, how much do you think the Deion Jordan situation factored into Miami's thinking with the selection of Charles Harris over Reuben Foster?
Ooh, that's a good one. From two aspects, the Deion Jordan situation. One, Charles Harris was a 3-4 outside linebacker, just like Deion Jordan. It's a guess whether or not they can become a 4-3 defensive end. I like Charles Harris's rush ability a lot more than I liked Deion Jordan. Deion Jordan was really athletic when I watched him in draft, but he didn't have polished pass rushing moves. There wasn't an elite pass rushing trait to him. Charles Harris, if there's one thing he's got, is elite pass rushing traits. That's it, but hey, that's a pretty good trick to have.
Man, all he's got to do is get 1 sack a game, and he's the rookie of the year.
Absolutely.
That's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes, and he'll probably have 20 opportunities to get that 1 sack a year. Excellent point by you. But then again, the Reuben Foster, the medical, the character, the drug, make you a little bit queasy, to quote Joe Philbin. Makes you a little bit queasy.
Not a great history of Alabama defenders in the NFL.
Yeah, but linebackers is pretty good.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
I would have gone the other route.
Sure.
I would have gone with Foster, to be honest with you. And I would have addressed defensive end in the 2nd round or maybe the 3rd round with a player like Jordan Willis or the kid from Villanova or the kid from Ohio. I would have done that, but I can understand why the Dolphins did what they did. You look at who gets paid in the NFL. The players who get paid are the guys who get the sacks.
And I think the Dolphins do feel fortunate that McMillan fell to them at 54.
Yeah, 54.
54,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think he was going to be a second-round talent
Okay.
to begin with. Maybe he would have lasted till the third round, but they certainly couldn't have got him in another round. If you stick to BPA and you're at 54 and player number 42 is sitting there for you, and I'm just throwing out hypothetical
Sure.
numbers, according to Chris Greer, you take it.
Fair enough. All right, that's a little bit of the wrap-up of what the Dolphins did in free agency and in the draft. So let's talk a little bit about what's next here over the next few months. We've seen the moves. What's left for the Dolphins this offseason?
Well, really, the only thing left is Damian Williams has to sign his extension. Sign his restricted tender,
Right.
$1.8 million. He's throwing a tantrum right now. He doesn't want to come to OTAs. He says, you don't want to give me a multi-year deal. Well, I'm mad at you.
Right.
I don't want to be here.
I'm going to go to New England. And then there's
No.
spot for them there anymore.
New England didn't make him an offer. But if you're Damian
Went,
Williams,
right.
if you're the Dolphins, why aren't you offering me a 3-year, $6 million deal? Why aren't you giving me some financial security? Because we know that they're going to let you go in free agency next year, and they're going to invest in Kenyon Drake. And we're not stupid. Damian Williams isn't stupid. People have to realize these 53 players are 53 franchises, and they're looking out for their best interest. Damian Williams suffers an ACL injury next year, has to hit the free agent market. What does his future look like in the NFL? He wants some financial security, and truthfully speaking, considering what he's contributed the last 3 years, he probably deserves some. But we know that's not how the NFL works. And then on top of that, finish. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the Dolphins believe that as Drake continues to get better, he can do what Damian Williams did
That's
last
correct.
year.
You think Damian Williams doesn't know this?
I think Damian Williams definitely knows that.
Okay, so he still wants to be compensated.
Sure.
Now, this is a business for both sides. Dolphins said, no deal for you. Damian Williams says, I need my deal. He says, I'm not coming to OTAs. This is how it plays out. And then we've got the Jarvis Landry contract situation.
It's playing out a little differently. He is coming.
He is showing up, allegedly. He's showing up. He's playing nice. I mean, obviously, he's got an offer on the table that he's comfortable with, wants to see it improve.
Sure.
We'll see how it plays out. I would be shocked if they play game one and Jarvis Landry does not have a $60 million deal. Shocked.
I mean, I understand how.
He's now probably the 115th highest paid receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's going to be taken care
And it's
of.
an odd situation because, I mean, he doesn't have necessarily the talent to be paid like a top 6 to 7 best receiver in
Top
the
10,
NFL.
definitely.
But borderline top 10. The thing is when you look at that, top 10, how many of those receivers mean more to their team than Jarvis Landry does?
Very few, probably about.
Maybe none. Maybe none.
Des Bryant.
But still a run first team. But I think you say there is Jarvis Landry's value that he has for the Dolphins is much more than he would have for other teams.
That is correct.
So there is an issue here of saying, okay, well, I'm valuable like a top 5 receiver. Well, yeah, you are, but you can't get that if you go anywhere else. So they've got to find some sort of middle ground.
True. I think a fair balance, and I've written this, is to pay him as if he's a top 10 receiver. Give him guaranteed money that escalates to the 27 million mark range, and give him some financial security. I think the deal that they gave Rashad Jones, which was 5 years, $60 million, and roughly 28 of it guaranteed, is an identical deal that they should give Jarvis Landry.
Makes sense.
And if they have offered him that and he declined it, then I don't feel sorry for him. You can sit and play on your $1 million this year and your $14 million franchise tag and play for a total of $15 million for the next 2 years. You could take my 30 now or play on 15 for the next 2 years. I think that that's fair and more reasonable.
All right, next question comes from Justin. Which player do you expect to work on his craft and surprise us next year?
You know, it's interesting that you brought up a couple of those players because I believe in Michael Thomas. I believe he's a good nickel. I believe he's a good special teams player, and I believe he can be a good safety. Jordan Phillips. I hope. something's got to light his fire. Maybe these two young defensive tackles pushing him, motivating him, trying to get him to actually light a fire under him. Maybe the thought of the fact that you could become a backup now, maybe that inspires him. Maybe the thought of, hey, if I play well, I can secure my family's future for the future generations, hopefully. And then Devontae Parker, you're special here. Tons of talent. You just watch flashes and you say, he can run deep like Kenny Stills. He can be physical like Jarvis Landry. He's smoother than both of them.
Yeah.
Question is, can he put it all together? Can he stay healthy? But I think...
Does he want it?
I don't like questioning guys' drive, determination, hunger.
Okay.
His issue's been medical. Does he and maturity? All of these young guys, they don't know what it takes. I've dealt with Brandon Marshall off the field and watched him train, watched him work, watched how hard he takes care of his body. The elite athletes, it's a 60-hour-a-week job in the off season. Now the question is Devontae Parker putting in that 60-hour-a-week job? I don't know. I can't say.
All right, next question comes from FinFan3493. Which free agents would you bring in to round out the player acquisition portion of the offseason? You said Darrelle Revis already. You like Revis?
Ooh, I like the thought of Revis at safety.
Yeah.
I like the thought of Revis going down and working in the nickel. I like the thought of Revis on my team, especially since the Jets are already paying him $6 million. Your contract's offset anyway.
Sure.
So it makes sense to me. He's here. The question is he motivated and hungry and driven and determined? Because why would he play for the Dolphins when he can go play for the Patriots? And he can go play for the Patriots if he wants to. But Darrelle Revis is making $6 million this year. Why does he need to work?
Right.
So it comes down to drive, determination, and hunger. I have been told by my sources that he has reached out to Mike Tannenbaum, who was his former GM, and said, hey, I'm here if you're interested.
Specifically for safety?
I don't know what position.
Okay.
I don't know what position. We'll see. Dan Williams is another. I think the Dolphins need another defensive tackle. I would love for somebody to come in and make a certain individual feel like his job is not guaranteed and push himself harder to be the player that he has the potential to be. And Dan Williams, even hell, Paul Soliai can come in here and contribute right away. Sean Derek Marks from Jacksonville. These are all 30-year-old defensive tackles who just need a $2 million deal looking for work.
Right. All right, next question comes from Salo. Can William Hayes play DT, opening the door for Charles Harris to compete for starting minutes?
Oh, absolutely. If you watch his Ram film, he played defensive end on first down, went inside to defensive tackle on third down. That sounds exactly like what the Dolphins need, and in fact, that's how they used Jason Jones last year. So I see William Hayes sort of being the replacement for Jason Jones. I liked his film. I think he's probably one of the top additions they made on defense. Charles Harris, I see him and Cam Wake as the third down pass rushing specialist. Put him on the field, go get the quarterback.
All right, next question from Mike. Do you think Leonte Carew will be more involved in the offense this year, or is he a non-factor behind the top three receivers?
I would hate to say a non-factor. I think he's the fourth receiver. If one of them goes down, which we saw at a point last year, all three of them were injured at the same time. Now the problem is Leonte Carew couldn't really contribute. That's not settled. That's not makes you feel comfortable. Adam Gase has said he put too much on Leonte Carew's plate. He put everything. You got to learn all three spots, the entire offense. And with some young players, it's just too much. Right. You put too much on their plate. Adam Gase has said that he's going to just give Leonte one job, one role. You learn it, get good at it. And I bet you that role is probably going to be Devontae Parker's backup.
He's the one that's most likely to be injured.
Yeah. Oh, that's cold. That's cold.
Hey, go by track record there.
Yeah.
And fine. We got one more for you, and that comes from Xavier. Since Damian Williams has not signed his tender, do you think Kenyon Drake will see more total snaps this year?
Adam Gase has said he's going to get Kenyon Drake more involved. Kenyon Drake is an extremely talented player. I would love to see him work as a primary returner, kickoff, and punts. No offense to whoever handles the punts at the present moment.
Do we know that he's handling the punts right now?
I don't know. All of those young players, if you look at what the 2015 draft class did, they all took a major step forward in year two. That's what good coaching does. I expect the 2016 draft class to take a major step forward. That includes Kenyon Drake, that includes Leonte Carew, that includes Jakeem Grant, that includes, who was the first round pick last year? I don't even know who was the first round pick.
Wait, from Xavier Howard? Or?
Oh, yeah, Xavier Howard. Yeah. That includes Xavier Howard. All of those young guys have to take a step forward. A.J. Hendy's of the world. Step forward and become better players. Kenyon Drake is one of them. I would love to see him get more involved as a return specialist and compete with Damian Williams. The problem with Damian is Damian's a hell of a pass blocker, so you're not going to give that up.
Okay, so we're off-season. It's just about done. Not making too many more.
Yeah, no. You're going to have one or two more veterans.
Overlying thoughts. I mean, how did the Dolphins address what they needed to address?
They got better from a depth standpoint. That was area number one of concern for me. They did not necessarily get better at the defensive line, but they did get better at linebacker. So maybe that it helps them improve the run. And then the third thing is continuity. I think there's going to be a major jump of, there's a reason why you re-signed our own, taking care of our own, so that they can come back and hit the ground floor running. So ultimately, did the Dolphins improve? Yes. Does that mean it's going to result in an 11-win season? No.
All right, we'll be breaking down of the season, of course, even more as we get even closer. There's plenty more practices and workouts and OTAs and all sorts of things to happen.
Things that don't annoy me.
But
go ahead.
Yeah. But thank you so much for watching and sending us all your questions. Of course, even if we're not doing the show, you can interact with us on Twitter using the hashtag XOmar. And right now, we're going into X and Omar overtime. So you've been watching. You can send us your questions, again, using the hashtag XOmar. So thanks for watching.
I got a couple of questions here, and let me open up this to see if there's some questions in the chat area.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's try.
At Troy Musgrave, how does TJ McDonald fit into this defense after his 8-game suspension?
I think he'll fit in as a strong safety. That's what he looks like on film. He'll be Rashad Jones's backup. Maybe they'll see if he can play with Rashad Jones once that 8-game suspension is over.
This is not a Chris Culliver situation where we're going to expect
No. He's healthy. No. Chris Culliver just wasn't very good in practice. This guy's healthy. He's an impactful player for the Rams. They were just concerned a little bit about some off-the-field issues. So this is going to be interesting to watch.
M. Grandy 0311. Do you see Tankersley as competition for McCain Lippett or as the eventual replacement for Maxwell?
Oh, he's definitely the eventual replacement for Maxwell. Maxwell is guaranteed $8 million this year. No, he's guaranteed $4 of $8 million this year. Next year, he's on the books for $10 million. Byron Maxwell for $10 million. You paying that? No. So they worked a year ahead, and I think it's a smart approach. They did the same thing with Leonte Carew last year. They drafted him with the expectations that he would eventually replace Kenny Stills, who they felt like they might not be able to afford. He knows the offense for a year. He should be able to hit the ground floor running. I think Tankersley is the same thing. This is an investment for the future.
I think it's a smart way to do things.
Yeah, it is. It's BPA approach. I can't knock it. I can't tell you that it doesn't work. It does work. The question is you have to be patient about it and diligent about it. If you're doing BPA and you're changing coaches every 3 years, which the Dolphins have done for the last couple of years, or you're changing GMs every 2 years, stuff gets lost in the murk. Look for instance the Jets.
Sure.
Jets chose BPA. They chose 2 safeties in the first 2 rounds. Never mind that they already have 2 pretty good starting safeties.
Yeah.
So now they got 4 good starting safeties. Are they playing a 4-6 defense where 6 safeties are playing on the field? It could be a revolutionary football here. Didn't address your quarterback, didn't address your running back situation because Matt Forte is getting old as hell. Didn't address your center, your backup center. Hell, you lost a receiver in tore his ACL last week. Did you add a better receiver? So it's like Todd Bowles is being set up for failure, but it's BPA.
Right, BPA. I like. Are we ready for these kinds of questions?
Sure, go for
it. At NV305, should the Dolphins' expectation be the 1 seed in the AFC East?
Are you insane? Like, seriously?
This is what I would say, because I don't know if we've talked about it enough.
What's happening
after
to Tom
last
Brady?
season. No.
He was at the Met Gala yesterday.
Yes, the Dolphins made the playoffs last year, but they made the playoffs barely.
Yes.
And they had to have a lot of things go right to make that happen. A lot of those games, it's a trait. It's a great trait to have, to be able to figure out ways to win at the end.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't expect the ball to bounce that way all
That's
the
correct.
time. So,
and you can't expect the Bakari Rambos of the world to come in and just play pretty well.
So your goal is once again to prove that all of this is working, that these players are all getting better, that Adam Gase is the guy, that they are making steps towards being competitive with the Patriots. It's not, and I understand why Jarvis Landry said what he said about sweeping the Patriots, and I think if you're Jarvis, that's the mindset you have to have. But as a Dolphins fan, your goal this year should be, get back to the playoffs, but more so, get better and get the structure in place that this is a franchise that can compete for a Super Bowl year after year.
Here's my formula for this team to be successful in 2017. Sweep your Jets and the Bills like you did last year. The Jets regress, the Bills regress. There's no reason you shouldn't sweep both of them.
Right.
And then split the series with the Patriots. You didn't do it last year, but you did it the three previous years. That's 5 wins right there. Then go win some games at home. You got a 10-win team.
You got a 10-win
10-win teams in the playoff mix.
10-win teams in the
Now,
playoffs.
to sit here, the Patriots, let's be real about it, they got a little better.
Yeah.
They got a little better. They added some intricate pieces, Brandon Cooks, Keon Ely. They added the cornerback from Buffalo. They got, but let's not pretend like they didn't get better now. They added Mike Gillislee. He's forming a discard from you, but Patriots really got better.
I mean, if you want to have the goal to not have the AFC East be decided in November, then I think that's a goal.
That's a pretty good goal.
I think that's a good goal.
Jeff asks, if Pouncey doesn't fully recover, that's 2 unicorns gone. How does Miami expect to overcome this? The cane, everybody's talking about the cane that Mike Pouncey's been walking with. I've heard that he's been walking with a cane going back to February. The word on the street is that he had stem cell transplant. That's the new thing in the NFL, in professional sports, not just the NFL.
Right. That's like Kobe Bryant goes to Germany type stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Ryan Tannehill had it as well. It's about speeding up in the healing process. Mike Pouncey wants to play. Mike Pouncey will play. Adam Gase says, if I practice Mike Pouncey once a week, he's going to play, and he's going to play at a great level. And it's true. And Pouncey plays, whether he feels great or not, whether the hip is an issue or not, Pouncey's dominant. So the key is to get him on the field.
I know it happened. It seems like it happened ages ago, but we haven't had a chance to address it on this show. What do you think about parting ways with Brandon Albert?
It doesn't sit well with me. And it doesn't sit well with me because I knew how much of a leader he was. I knew how tough he was. I think that line was built around him and the fact that he can hold his own on the left tackle spot. Right now you're banking on Laramie Tunsil being a franchise player. And he very well might be. But is he durable enough to be a franchise player? Is that, the one lesson that Laramie Tunsil told me that Brandon Albert helped him with is let him know that you're so important to this team. You got to be out there and play with one shoulder, which he did. I got to be out there and play with one hand, which Brandon Albert did. And there takes a certain level of toughness and commitment to the game to do that. And that was the one thing when I talked to Brandon privately, he was just like, Laramie's got to get that. He's got to understand. He's got to be 70%, but he's still got to lock down that spot.
Sure.
And that's not easy to do. And I knew Brandon Albert at 70% was better than anybody else you can get at 100%.
I don't think the Dolphins have to catch the Patriots by doing everything that Belichick and the Patriots do.
Yeah, nobody can do that.
But the one thing that they do that I think is something that teams should try to strive for is to cut loose of guys before it's too late, before it cripples your team, before and with Albert, I mean, how confident would you be that he could play 10 games next year?
I would have been confident he could play 6 to 12 games. And even, his salmonella poisoning, fracture, basically lacerated tendon in his wrist, and he still came out and played.
Yeah.
So, I think Brandon Albert is one hell of a tough football player, and I have a ton of respect for him, and so does the rest of the team. To me, you don't get rid of places like that.
Yeah.
And just to do what? Save money? You got $19 million in cap space now. Like, what was that, 8.5? Did you really need that 7th round pick that you got from Jacksonville in 2018? I would have rather than give up that 7th round pick, I would have rather spent the cash and had that continuity on the offensive line. I would have been excited about that line.
They didn't really trade it for a 7th round pick. They really traded it for Julius Thomas.
No, 2 separate trades.
Yeah, but that was, hey, you do this with me and I'll do this with you. But we can't really do it officially. So what we're going to do is do it
No. They did 2 separate trades so that if something happened with one trade, it's like it's pointless. You gave him a 7th rounder this year for a 7th rounder next year, okay, and you put Brandon Albert in Jacksonville where he went willingly because he was promised that he was going to get a new contract and even had the numbers, and now they haven't given him a new contract. That's why you can't trust NFL teams. But the Dolphins were going to get Julius Thomas no matter what.
Okay.
That was in their plans from the very beginning. That Brandon Albert had nothing to do with it. Brandon Albert should be here. You didn't need the money. You didn't need the 7th round compensatory pick. Why isn't he here? That's just my personal opinion, the way that I see it.
I'm glad I asked that question because that's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it that way. All right, more questions from you, though. As great as my questions are, and they are great, I want to take some from you guys. Roderick, do you think this front office is the best to
Run the Dolphins organization?
in the way that they are all on the same page?
It's cute and great when you claim you're all on the same page when you're winning. I will always test your loyalty and commitment to one another and your finger pointing when you start losing.
Right.
Now, to their credit, they stuck together when they started losing. And so that gives me hope. I do have a lot of hope. I like Chris Greer. I like Mike Tannenbaum. A lot of the decisions that he made, a lot of the strengths that he brings to the table, the egoless approach is beneficial, and I love Adam Gase. Adam Gase, you've been around him.
Sure.
He can relate to you. He can relate to me. He can relate to your mom. He can relate to your dad. He can reach players, and he can help players get better. And that's a true sign that somebody is an elite coach.
What are your thoughts on Matt Burke?
No clue about him.
Okay.
So we shall see.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we shall see.
All right. What do you think? You got any more good ones? You good?
Nah, we're good.
All right.
Always a pleasure. We've been at this for a while.
We have, haven't we?
We will be back for maybe before training camp begins.
All right.
We'll do a pre-training camp edition next, Omar.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for interacting with us on Twitter. And we'll see you soon.